Hello there. My name is Floor Galaxy, but you can call me Floor. Today is a nice snowy day outside, and today we'll finally be taking a look at my smartphone collection as of January 2024. As you can tell, it's a lot, and it's taken a long time, which is why I will have to announce something at the end about this type of video. So if I sound tired, that's because I probably will be after talking about all of these phones. I'm pretty sure that's over 100 at this point. But without further ado, let's get started. So, the smallest phone in my collection is this HTC Wildfire S. It does not work, although it does show some signs of life occasionally. It shows an orange light, but that is about it. Next, we have an HTC HD Mini, which fully works. Next, we have this LG KS20, and it's a pretty neat case. Also fully works. Also, because they're smartphones, I will clarify if they're running Windows Phone, Windows Mobile, iOS, or Android. This I have no idea what it's running. Probably Android 2. This is running Windows Mobile 6, I believe. And this one is also running Windows Mobile 6. Next up is the HTC Touch Dual. And I'm pretty sure it was at some point called the HTC Touch Diamond as well. This one has a similar problem to this. However, this one is running Windows Mobile of some version that I do not know. Next up we have the HTC Herald, and this one also is running Windows Mobile, but just like this one, I don't know what Windows Mobile version it's running because it has a broken touchscreen and I can't set it up. Next up is this HTC Z2 in a really nice feeling case. I'm surprised the rubber hasn't degraded at all, or that they even got such an expensive case if this phone did have if this one did have a newer case on it. Either way, the back is stunning. The case is pretty nice. It's pretty comfortable in my hand, and the phone itself is also pretty comfortable. Anyway, this fully works. It's running Android 1.6, which is one of the oldest Android phones that I have. Next, we have the Samsung Wave Y, and this is basically the only exception to must-run Windows Mobile, Windows Phone, iOS, or Android to be a smartphone, because this actually had a proprietary software called BotOS. Sadly, this software failed, and as a result, it never became an official smartphone OS. But it was supposed to be that, so I'm putting it in the smartphone category. This is locked with a passcode. Next, we have a Galaxy Young. This is actually blue, and I didn't notice until now. Anyway, this does work, but the touchscreen is broken, and it definitely needs a new battery, as the old one is bloated, and it also probably doesn't even work. Also, the touchscreen isn't entirely broken, but it's more like the top half that is broken. The bottom half works fine. And it's running Android 4.1.2. I really wish that I could get this fixed, but at the same time, it is such an old phone and such a cheap one that I don't think that I can actually find a fix for it, at least not one that is more expensive than buying a new one. And I don't really miss this anyway. Next, we have a Galaxy Geo. This brings back memories from my childhood, however, it's running Android 2.2 and it has a broken LCD. Next, we have an LG Optimus Net, and this one actually works. It's running Android 2.2.4, I believe. Okay, next we have a Eaton Glowfish. Oh gosh, that sounds so bad out of context. Whoops. Anyway, this does work, but its battery is so bad that I couldn't even charge it. And it's not going to be the only one like this, don't worry. Next we have the Acer E130. It is pretty nice, and it fully works. It's actually, again, really comfortable, which is surprising considering that these are made of rubber. This keyboard is made of rubber. And again, you would expect it to heavily degrade after 10 years of it being released. Or probably even more. Anyway, this is also running Android 1.6, making it one of the oldest Android phones that I have as well. Next up we have a Galaxy Ace. This one's running Android 2.3.5. It works perfectly fine, but there's something going on with the motherboard, because every single battery that I've shoved into this thing is instantly bloated. Like, even previously non-bloated batteries, the second that I got them in, they would bloat. That is not good, but at least it does work. Next up we have the Yuppie phone. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, this is running Android 4.4.4 KitKat. The reason that I found out is because I looked it up. I wondered, what even is this? Apparently this is supposed to be a children's phone, and it's sold only in Romania. So that's neat. Too bad that it doesn't work, and it was probably crap anyway. Anyway, next up we have an LG Optimus Chic. This one works perfectly fine. It's running Android 2.2, and it's actually really expensive for what it is, so that's unexpected. Fun fact, this phone is worth more than the entire lot that I got it from, which was about $44. This one's about $50. And that's probably the minimum price. Like, this is just the phone itself is $50. If you can find a box for it, it's gonna be way more expensive than this. Anyway, next we have Galaxy Trend. This one does not work, but the display works. So in case I find a Galaxy Trend with a broken display, I can replace it with this. Okay. Also, you may be wondering why I took out the part where I specified where each of these phones came from, and that's because, honestly, it's not that interesting. Most of these came from phone lots or for family members, so I will only bring it up if it's relevant to the video, or if it's interesting enough of a location. So now we have 3 Galaxy S3 minis. So this first one is a white one. It works, is running Android 4.1.2. I'm not sure if it has battery right now. I don't think it does. Anyway, but it does fully work despite the super cracked screen. Next we have a mint Galaxy S3 mini, and this one fully works as well. It originally had a defective Wi-Fi, but I managed to fix that by cleaning up the inside of the motherboard. This one is running Android 4.1.2. I got both of these two from the same lot. Next up we have the final Galaxy S3 mini, and despite being the cleanest one by far, it's also the least functional because it's literally just a shell. It's not running any Android version because it's literally just a shell. Like, what is it supposed to run? Anyway, next we have a Samsung Galaxy S Duos, and this works for the most part. It's running Android 4.0.4. But because of that, you can't really do anything with this. So I looked up what is up with like Android phones and why none of them worked if they were 4.0 point something or below. And it turns out that this is just an issue with these services. Like, all of the services are basically gone on this, including Wi-Fi. So that's sad. Anyway. Well, no, Wi-Fi is still there, but you have to make a Google account, and a Google account doesn't work on Android 4 or lower. Specifically 4.0 or lower. If it's Android 4.1, it does work, but this is Android 4.0.4, and therefore it does not work. Next, we have Galaxy S Duos 2. This one fully works. It's running Android 4.2.2, and it's not locked to anything. Again, this one's relatively expensive. However, it's not worth more than the entire lot it was in, because the entire lot was super expensive, the most expensive one that I got, and also the one that had the least amount of phones that were actually worth it. Don't worry, I fixed my mistakes since then, and now I have a lot of these. Anyway, next up we have this HP, I still don't remember what this one was. I actually did look it up. However, because the name was so long and honestly kind of stupid, I didn't remember it. Either way, I couldn't even test it because the charging port is just so weird. And I don't want to bother getting a specific charger just for this. I don't know why, it just doesn't seem worth it. It doesn't look great. I know it can be expensive, don't get me wrong, but the regular price is not that expensive at all, so yeah. Anyway, next we have a Galaxy Ace Style. It is running Android 4.4.4, and you would expect it to run Google services just fine, but it doesn't. So this would count as a defect for the phone. But it does have a really cool back pattern. Like, I really appreciate how it goes between dark gray and light gray. Anyway, that's basically the only thing that I appreciate about this because the rest of it is bad, including the battery. Okay. You would think that it gets better from here, but it actually gets worse. So next up we have a Motorola Droid. And while it is pretty valuable, it is literally so bad. It is incredibly sticky. Its touchscreen is, well, no, not the touchscreen itself, but specifically this part. These touch buttons are broken. Specifically the back button, which is probably the one that you would need to use the most. Wait, no, not the back button, the home button. The home button's the one that's broken. And sometimes the touchscreen decides to go wild for no reason. Speaking of touchscreens that decide to go wild for no reason, here's the Sony Xperia Neo L, I think. I'm not turning this on because it has a private photo and I do not wish to show that. I know I wouldn't feel good if someone showed a private photo of me in their phone collection. Okay, next we have a Nokia Lumia 530. This one fully works. It is locked to orange, which is sad, but it's the only one that is locked, surprisingly enough. Next, we have the Galaxy S Plus. I figured out what the problem with this was. Apparently, it just has a bad battery, so getting a new battery for this would mean that I would get it fully working again, but I really don't want to. It doesn't even have that many memories of my childhood that I can't re-download on other phones. It's running under 2.3.5, and it does work, but it's still one that I don't feel that strongly for anymore. Okay, next we have an LG Optimus Soul and an LG Optimus L5, which curiously enough take the same battery. I don't know why they do, but either way, both of these are useless. This one does work, it's on Android 4.0.3, but because it's on Android 4.0.3, it doesn't do anything. And this is just boot looping, so that's unfortunate. Anyway, next we have an HTC Desire HD. And this one, despite how clean it looks, okay, not really, it doesn't work. It shows zero signs of life. Unlike the other ones where I have some hopes that they might work, but there's some defect inside, this just doesn't work. This is unfortunate because, again, it looks very nice. But I looked it up and I found out that it was on Android 4.0 point something anyway, so it's not even like this would be useful. Again, really demotivates me from doing anything with it. Next we have a Nokia Lumia 820. I forgot to turn this off. Okay. Anyway, this has an OLED screen, which is impressive. Yeah, I guess I'll download that because why not? Either way, this one has the best battery by far, even though it doesn't even have the largest one. Wow, this one has a really bad battery, like 6%. It was originally 52% for context. So, that isn't great. And neither is this. Wow, a lot of batteries are pretty bad. Anyway, this one isn't, which is nice. Yeah. It is actually still usable to this day, and it has a pretty nice metal body, I think. I think it is metal anyway. I don't remember. I mean, it isn't metal. It's plastic with metal. Either way, it's still pretty nice. Next, we have two ZTE Blade A410s, both locked to orange. Both from relatives, although from different relatives. So, this first one works, but you have to struggle with the power button. Yay! So, enjoy seeing these next few minutes of me struggling to power on a tiny device. Okay, maybe with my fingernail it will work. Okay, it does. This one actually has a very usable store, like Play Store. Both of these are on Android 5.1, by the way. So, oh, I forgot to turn off this one. Either way, this one is the one that, despite being in good condition, it actually has a broken Play Store. That's really sad. Okay, next we have a UTalk something. I still don't know what UTalk this is, because probably I didn't bother enough to search it. Either way, this partially works. It does show something on the charger. Its display fully works, but I cannot get it to power on, which implies that the power button is the thing broken here. Anyway, next we have an iPhone SE, and obviously it's in already terrible condition, but as you saw from the Apple logo, it gets worse. Because it boots into the Apple logo at first, but then it just completely glitches out. You'll see it later evolve a horrifying pattern on it. As you can see, it is turning on, but it doesn't really do anything with that, so that's unfortunate. I don't know what iOS this is anyway. It would probably be iCloud locked, so I don't even think this would be worth trying to repair. Anyway, next we have a Samsung Omnia 7. This one fully works. It's running Windows Phone 7, as the name implies. And yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. It's not that interesting, but it is nice. Next we have a base, I don't even know what this is. Either way, the other name for it is a ZTE Skate, and it's running Android 2.3.5, and it fully works. Next we have a Sony Xperia Arc S, which is actually really rare where I live, and it's actually kind of rare in general. What? Why are there so many vibrations? Anyway, this one also fully works. Okay, there we go. That took a while. That power button's a pain. It's running 2.3.6, and yeah, that's again about it for this thing. Neither of the two are usable because, again, Android 2 means that you can't really use anything. They need to look back on, though. They have nice music. Anyway, next we have a Galaxy J1. This one does not work at all. Next we have a white Galaxy J1, which I repaired a while ago. I forgot to turn this one off as well, and it fully works. Next we have a black Galaxy J1. This one is on T-Mobile. Both of these are running Android 4.4.4. They both have 8 GB of storage, and yeah, they both fully work, except this one has the exact same issue. The exact same issue as this Ace style. And the Ace style died. Yay! Again, it goes to show how terrible the battery is on this thing. I didn't mention the storage for a lot of these because honestly it was actually pretty useless to say until now. But from here it's not that useless anymore. I mean, I guess I could mention that these two are 4 GB models because actually no, they're both 8 GB models because they're both somewhat decent. These two are both 4 GB models, these two are both 8 GB, and that's about it for how useful these are. The rest of these wouldn't be really useful to bring up the storage from because they don't even fully work. Or they fully work, but they don't have anything you can download. Next, so this is a Nokia Lumia 635. Sadly, it has a purple stain on the back, so that's unfortunate. I can't sell it properly. This is running on O2, but at the same time, it is actually pretty rare. It is the largest Windows phone that I have. So all 3 of my Windows Phone running phones, so this Lumia 635, this Lumia 820, and this Lumia 530, all run Windows Mobile 8.1 specifically. Next we have a very unfortunate case. This Galaxy 3 does show signs of life, although it doesn't really show anything on the screen itself. It heats up, it looks like it's about to do something on the charger, but it never does. It even vibrates every now and then. So I assume that the ribbon cable is completely snapped, but then again, it would also show an LED light, maybe. Or probably not, actually. That would explain a lot. Anyway, next we have an LG K4, which I also forgot to turn off. Anyway, this fully works. It's running Android 5.1.1. It has 8 GB of storage, and again, it's surprisingly usable for such a tiny phone. Next up, we have an all-view V1 Viper, which is also surprisingly useful for how tiny it is. This is running Android 4.2.1, which is easily one of the most unique versions of Android that I've seen, and it also has a pretty neat booting animation. So let's take a look at it real quick. In one of my earlier videos, I also showed that this has a really cool translucent bezel. So you can watch the September 2023 phone collection if you want to see more about that one specifically. Also, yes, I know I'm wearing a soccer shirt. I don't care because it looks cool. Next up we have an S3. Well, it's an S3 Neo, but it has an S3 board in it. This one has a broken OLED, as you can see here. Like, this is the reason why I swapped it out. And it's stuck on T-Mobile. Nothing works properly. So yeah, that's sad. Next up we have an S3 with an S3 Neo board in it. This one fully works, but it's password locked, so I will have to unlock it at some point. Neither of these have a battery. Next up we have a Galaxy J2 that also doesn't have a battery, and it does not work whatsoever. However, the display breaking was my fault, because I actually tried to repair this thing. It did not work out at all. Next we have an S4, and even though this one doesn't have a battery, it does actually fully work. Well, not fully. It works, but the AMOLED is broken, which is unfortunate. This one's also stuck to T-Mobile. Next we have a black S4. Well, black and gray. This one's unlocked, but it also has a broken OLED. This is running Android 5.1.1 and it has 16 GB of storage. Next we have this black edition Galaxy S4. It's fully working, and this time it's running Android 5.0.1, but it also has 16 GB of storage. Pretty usable, actually. Next, we have a Galaxy S4 Active. I have no idea what the storage is on this one. All I know is that it has a broken LCD, but otherwise it does work, and it needs a new battery. Okay, next we have two Sony Xperia Zs. So this one fully works except for the touchscreen. It's running Android 5.1.1, and is generally would generally be pretty usable if it had a good touchscreen. As for this one, it's running Android 4.4.2. It has my recording got cut off, but anyway, what I wanted to say is that it has a really crappy battery. And yeah, I saw that. Oh my gosh, there's even more cracks on it than before. But also, that's not very surprising. That's the reason why I replaced the back on this, because it wasn't going to be very good anyway. It's running Android 4 point something. It's pattern locked. The entire touchscreen is broken, so that makes it honestly not really worth it for me. Okay, next. We're finally out of the broken phone realm, and now we're in the working phone realm. So this Huawei Y6 2015 is fully working, but it's running under 5.1.1, and it was a pain to set up. What is this even doing? It's boot looping now. That's not good. Yeah, there's a reason why I replaced the battery, because that board wasn't gonna go well anyway. Alright, so now we have two J5. They're both running Android 6.0.1. They both have 8 GB of storage. This one also has 8 gigs. And the only difference is that this one is cracked. This one has a missing back cover. And it also has a 16 GB micro SD card for some reason. I forgot to swap in to this, even though this one has a neat screen protector, mint condition screen, actually has a backplate, and it's more stable, slightly, both in terms of battery life and in terms of general performance compared to this. As you can see, yeah, it's gonna die immediately. Next, oh, I forgot to turn this one off too. Anyway, this is a Galaxy J3 2017 to be specific. This one is running Android 7 and it has 16 gigabytes of storage. Well, before we completely leave the non-working phone realm, we also have to focus on this Huawei P8 Lite, I believe. It literally doesn't have anything at all. It's just a shell like this S3 Mini. Anyway, sorry for the quick interruption. Next up is an LG K8. Okay, so there is this tiny streak of phones that don't really work, but then after that all of these will work. Anyways, this LG K8 does otherwise work. However, it has a corruption problem, as we can see here. Even the display works, which is surprising. But yeah, other than this, it would work. Next, we have a Nokia 3. And while this one isn't exactly a shell, as in it does somewhat function, at the same time, it definitely wouldn't work if you put a battery in it. This one doesn't have a battery. Okay, I apologize for the 2 interruptions in this video. So for the first one, the camera was dying, and no, for the first one, the camera crashed, and for the second one, the camera was dying, so I have to charge it. But now I'm finally back. And if I didn't explain this already, this Nokia 3 has a water-damaged board, most likely, and this is why I don't think it would work even if I had the battery for it. Which is why it's still kind of similarly useless to this Huawei P8 Lite. Okay, maybe except for the display, because this does actually look like it could be replaceable, but still, it was very rusted inside. Next up we have Galaxy A20e, and it partially works, but its LCD is broken. Oh gosh. Anyway, next there is a Huawei P10 Lite. It somewhat works. I have seen it turn on, but it only showed like a white display, not white, but slightly shining over the black. So I think that this does have a broken display, maybe, or maybe it just didn't charge enough. Either way, the fact that this is showing signs of life at all is absolutely wild. Now let's move on to the next one. Finally, we're getting into the working zone again. So we have a Huawei Y5 2018, which again fully works. It's running Android 8.1. Finally, what a big jump. And sadly it has a broken speaker and it's really laggy. And it's also a 16GB phone, but yeah. Next we have a Huawei Ascend G700, and it fully works as well. The only thing that it needs is a battery, otherwise, again, it fully works. So we're finally back into that streak of fully working phones. Oh, I forgot about these 3. We'll get to them later. Next we have an Allview V2 Viper S. It has shown signs of life. It probably does work, but the power button is definitely stuffed on this one because it literally doesn't even click. So I highly doubt that the power button actually works. Okay, next we have 2 Galaxy A5 2016s, sorry. So this one is cracked, like it's seriously cracked on the front and the back. And it's also kind of slow because it's running Android 7.1.1. But it also doesn't have a screen protector, so at least I guess you can see the entire screen in its true glory with all the cracks and everything that resulted in. Anyway, next we have... Oh, I forgot to turn this one off. Interesting. Anyway, this is another A5 2016. This one has a great battery, great stability. In general, this is one of my favorite phones, well, favorite secondary phones that I have. This is running Android 7.0, which makes it pretty fast, so that's nice. Neither of the two have burn-ins in OLED so that honestly makes it even more impressive. And this one barely has any burn-in. So yeah, I didn't bring a burn-in until now. This one has horrible burn-in. These two are both fine. I don't think either of the two have OLEDs, so that's not even worth bringing up for those two. This one has an OLED, but it doesn't really have anything. Again, and this one also has a perfectly fine OLED, despite, again, existing for so long. Oh, I think this one turns itself off. Okay, that explains it. Anyway. What? Anyway, that was awkward. Yeah. This one's OLED is fine. This one is burnt to a crisp. This one is... Oh wait, this doesn't have an OLED. If it does, it's fine. Well, no, it has an LCD that somehow got burnt. So that was impressive and disturbing. Okay, next up we have three HTC One M8. So these two are great. This one is gold. It's very hard to tell the difference, but if I zoom out, it is a lot easier to tell. Either way, this one doesn't work, but it does show signs of life. This one doesn't work. It used to show signs of life, but not anymore. It's also absolutely demolished. So both of these are demolished. Likely neither of them fully work. This one has a broken charging port. This one has a broken screen, most likely. This one is the only one that I have somewhat hope in. It is in mint condition for the most part. Again, as I said, for the most part, they do seem to be mint. But at the same time, it doesn't really seem to boot. And it does show signs of life. Again, like it shows a red LED when you charge it. But it's also not doing anything, which is weird. None of the three are doing anything, by the way. So I would actually be genuinely surprised and sad if this one had a broken screen. Okay, now we have an HTC One M9, and this definitely has a, oh, it does have battery. Okay, cool. Yeah, this one fully works. This is running Android 7.0. It has a terrible battery, but otherwise it does work. It's also running on Verizon, so that's not great. It has 32 gigs of storage, however. Oh, also both of these have 16 gigabytes. Okay, next we have a Doogie something. I, again, haven't bothered to look it up because, honestly, I don't really care enough. But, yeah, it doesn't work. It is in mint condition on the front and the back, and it doesn't work. That's really sad, actually. The battery is looking pretty bad, though, so I thought that might be the explanation, but it is definitely not. I tried it, and it is not the explanation at all. Okay, next we have this is actually a really, like, the housing on this phone is in mint condition. So this is actually really valuable, plus it's blue. This is a Galaxy J5 2017. And it has a broken OLED, yes, but it fully works, and otherwise it's just in such good condition that I feel like this could be very valuable. And it's blue, so I want to keep it. So I am really planning on repairing this phone whenever I can. Next we have an Ulview P6 Life that I probably didn't even bother oh, I actually did bother turning it off and back on again. Anyway, this fully works. It's running Android 5.1.1. It has 4 gigabytes of storage, no, 8 gigabytes of storage, which is actually really nice, and it fully works, including the Wi-Fi problem that it previously had that is now fully resolved, yes. Okay, now let's move on to the phones that are relatively new. Well, for the most part. Next, we have a Motorola G5S. This one is running Android 8.1 or 8.0. Either way, this one has 32 gigabytes of storage, and it is absolutely, well, it's not in immaculate condition. As you can see, the display is coming off. But I did repair this one as well, and it fully works. And the UI is so beautiful. Its speaker is really good. Its battery is pretty decent. So yeah, this is actually a neat phone. It's again one of my favorites. Next we have Galaxy J6 running Android 10 with 32 gigabytes of storage. This again is one of my favorite phones. It is cracked to bits. This one has no burn-in on the OLED, which is so surprising. Next we have a Galaxy S7 Edge. And oh boy, does this one have burn-in. This is running Android 8.1.1. No, 8.1.0, sorry. It has 32 gigabytes of storage as well. So all of these three are 32 gigabyte, but they're from very different eras and very different types of phones, very different budgets and everything. Either way, oh gosh, this battery is running really low, and yeah, the burn-in is pretty terrible, but it's hidden kind of well by the background. Next, we have an LG G4, which fully works. It's running Android 6.0, and it has 32 gigabytes of storage, which again, I find pretty neat. It has a lot of games because I chose to install a lot of games on it. Okay, now let's look at this abomination. This is a Galaxy Note 2. Well, it's a Note 2 shell now. Either way, it does not work. It never did. I mean, the motherboard somehow worked. This is the phone that I used to repair my own Galaxy Note 2, and I'm gonna turn it on with my fingernails, so I'm gonna have to switch hands for this. It's probably dead too, so I don't know. Yeah, it is. Either way, this does fully work. It is, again, one of my favorite phones, despite how old it is. You can tell that I generally like bigger phones that are also newer and have more storage. Anyway, this is great for watching videos. Like, everything is in, like, it's in full screen. Like an actual full screen. This has 16 gigabytes, is running Android 4.4.2, but despite that, is actually surprisingly compatible with a lot of apps to this day. So, yeah, that's pretty neat. And the OLED isn't burnt on this one either, which is, again, impressive. Next, we have this disaster. This one also doesn't work. It's an Alcatel Pop 5.5 inch. Although I don't know where the 5.5 was from because this is absolutely gigantic. Either way, doesn't work. Cracked to bits. Probably useless. Next, we have a very useful one. This is a Redmi Note 6 Pro. No, sorry, it's a Redmi 6 Pro. It has a really cool V-notch, as you can see here. The bezel is huge, but I don't really care, because it actually has a notification LED at the bottom of the bezel. It is a white notification LED. Anyway, this is on running Android 9 with 32 gigabytes of storage. This J7 2017 is completely unknown. It doesn't even have a display. It doesn't show any signs of life. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't do anything. So therefore, I don't think it works at all. Also, it's in terrible condition. It's really rough, really beat up. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, I'm back again. Sorry for the second interruption. No, third interruption in this video. But we're finally nearing the end. So next, we have, well, I would call it the Hall of Fame, but 4 of these are pretty bad, so I don't know. Next, we have a Huawei Y6 2018. It works perfectly fine. It actually has a pretty neat feature where you can't really track it based off the angles. It kind of has like this, like the protection screen, like those tinted screen protectors where you can't see it from specific angles, so only you can see your information. I find that really cool, although it is likely just a side effect of the aftermarket screen and most people may not find it desirable. I find it pretty cool. It's running Android 8.0 and it has 16 gigabytes of storage. Next we have an LG Stylus 2, which would be very cool to have. And I mean, it still is very cool to have. However, the battery is dead and no battery replacements seem to be valid for this, unfortunately. It does fully work though, except for the speaker, because I've heard of because I've heard it and it seems to have literally no sound on it, which is also really strange to me because it wasn't even muted when. Anyway, next we have a Huawei Y6 2019, which fully works. Oh gosh, oh it's just a mark. That one's not actually a crack. It does have two cracks on the bottom, two real cracks. So this larger one was already there when I got it, but the second one was when I dropped it off the table. Yeah, I have a pretty bad history with Huawei Y6s and dropping them off of things. Either way, at least this one actually still works. This is running Android 9, it has 32 gigabytes of storage. It's pretty nice actually, but it's kind of slow. It's not laggy or painful like the Y5 2018 though. Next we have the Miria Grand. It is, again, as the name implies, giant. Sadly, it does not work. The display somehow works, but the rest of it seems to be broken. Next we have the Galaxy A50, which actually looks to be pretty similar, except it's also cracked on the top. Again, doesn't work. The display shows something, but it shows that it doesn't work. So both of these have working displays, somehow, but neither of them have a working board. Anyway, next we have this HTC One E9 Plus, which actually fully works. Let's see if I can power it on. His battery is really bad, like really bad, worse than the One M9's, so it might not show it, but it does turn on. This is running Android 5.0.2. Like, it's a really old Android version, yes, I know, but it is still really usable despite that. And it's also gigantic, which again is very nice when watching YouTube videos. This would be one of my favorite secondary phones that I have if it wasn't so if it wasn't so unstable. Anyway, this does work. However, I have a larger phone here that is actually my favorite secondary phone. This is the Galaxy M11. It is shattered to bits. It fully works. It runs Android 12. Its YouTube works perfectly fine. It's a 32 GB model. It checks all the right boxes. It has a new Android version. It is cracked to bits. It has enough storage. You can download as many games as you want. And because it's giant, I can watch things on it. Oh, and it also has a whole bunch of display just as an extra bonus. So yeah, this one's also one with burns in the LCD display, just like the J3. I got them from the same person, and they both broke these phones to bits, and somehow both of these still work. Anyway, I'm glad that I have both of them now. Let's unlock each and every single one of these phones, which is going to be a pain, just like the rest of this video seemed to be. This one's either in German or in Dutch. I have no idea how to change that. Oh, this is stuck. Well, that's too bad. Oh, never mind. It unlocked itself. Oh gosh, my camera is dying again. Wow, this camera is not doing well at all. It's died like twice in like one video. Oh boy, that does not sound great at all. However, I like these ones. I like these animations. Also, yeah, this one's also cracked to bits, but it still works somewhat as a broken LCD, kind of. Alright, just as a note, I do have to tell you guys something pretty important. So, honestly, this video has been really tiring to make, and as fun as it is to watch these videos with you guys, to see how many phones work, how many of them shut down and turn on, it is very exhausting to try and get them out of their box every time, and to try and arrange them by size and all of that. It can get pretty exhausting after a while. And my leg also started hurting while filming this video, and honestly, because of that, I would like to make like these full collections once a year. So expect the next full smartphone collection in January 2025. However, I will make smaller groups of phone collections, for example, from different brands or from different operating systems, such as like all of my Windows phones or all of my Java phones, because there are less of them here than there are smartphones, as in all Android for the most part, with a little bit of iOS and a couple of Windows phones in there. It would just feel a lot nicer to do all of this. So I hope you guys understand. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.